Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again for Monday Motivational Moments. And let me apologize. We had a couple of technical difficulties a few minutes ago, so we weren't able to start on time, but here we are and we are back. I want to welcome my guest this evening. Right now, we have Pastor Nikki Collins is joining us. She's the pastor of Higher Dimension Church here in Tallahassee. And I have my awesome, wonderful, supportive husband joining us tonight as well, Mr. Arnett Moore, Dr. Arnett Moore, excuse me. And we'll have Pastor Carlos will be joining us a little bit later. All right. So we want to just jump right into it, Pastor Nikki. We want to go ahead and just get started talking about. I know you've had a breast cancer journey. I think you said 5 years now.
5 years.
Wow.
Absolutely 5 years. And thank you all again for having me, Pam, you and Dr. Arnett. Thank y'all so much. Like, it has been definitely 5 years for me.
Wow.
5 whole years.
Time flies. Time flies. Well, I was just realizing earlier today that today is actually my 3rd year anniversary of being cancer free. So I'm very excited about that. God has been faithful.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I want to go ahead and talk about, Pastor Nikki, I see you doing so much. In the last 5 years, I've seen you doing all kinds of things. And so you went through a breast cancer journey. So tell me what motivated you to just kind of be out there and not just stay in a world of, oh God, I had breast cancer?
Well, because Pam, at first, it was such a shocker to me. I didn't know what I would be able to do. I didn't know how I would live beyond that, because I had never encountered anyone in my family with breast cancer or anyone really close to me. I had worked with people who had gone through it, but didn't know a whole lot. So once that diagnosis came, I really didn't understand the fullness of it. And so I immediately thought that it would just shut me down. I would stop. I didn't know how. I had all these feelings and all of these emotions. So the first thing when I started praying, I asked God, I said, Lord, please help my attitude. Help me to be able to handle this with more of a grateful attitude, that because I already knew I was healed. That was a done deal, because Isaiah 53:5, I knew, I stood on that. I was like, I know that I'm healed, but Lord, help me keep my mind, my attitude. I didn't want to go through it frustrated or with a lot of questions and looking at other people and saying, why me? I didn't want that, because I knew that one day that this was going to be a testimony for me. And so I knew right then and there, I said, Lord, if you bring me out on the other side, I am going to testify. I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to help other women. I'm going to let them know, early detection is key, because for me, they caught it super early. And I'm so grateful for that. And so I wanted to just share my story. I saw so many other women who were telling their story. They were being brave. And I said, you know what, Lord, I want to do that. I want to be brave. I want to be able to share this story. And so I documented the whole thing. I documented before the surgery, through the process, throughout the whole thing. So I have video of it all, and I talked about it and I shared. That was therapy for me. So I knew from the jump that I was going to tell my testimony. I was going to tell the story, because I saw myself on the other side of this thing. And so that was my motivation behind it.
Wow. And I think one of the key things you said was, I've got to share this testimony, because that's what it is. And that's what I believe, that anything we go through, any life experiences, it's not just for us.
Right.
It's fashioning us to be an inspiration for somebody else.
That's it.
And that, you can't, it's almost robbery to not share it. And I understand everybody has a personal preference as to how they go through this. Some people do it privately, and some people do it very publicly.
Right.
When I started my journey, I was very private about it. I was really private about it. I was getting mad if somebody told somebody that I wasn't ready to tell.
Right.
But once I had gotten into it and had kind of gone through it, especially after having the final surgery, the mastectomy, I was like, you know what? This can't be just for Pamela.
Right.
Because number one, people watch you while you're going through it.
Absolutely.
They watch your attitude. They watch how you're handling it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've got to be able to testify and tell people that, listen, your life after breast cancer can be full. It can be productive. It can be happy. As a matter of fact, I talk about how it helped to focus me.
Wow.
Because there were some things I tried to do for years that I couldn't do. I just couldn't pull it together. After breast cancer, it was clear. My vision was crystal clear. And I know you had some specific things. You started, what is it, Girl Check 7?
Yes, Girl Check 7. And immediately I was inspired by another lady in Jacksonville. I watched her journey as I was going through, and she inspired me. And I said, you know what? I am going to launch this initiative. I am going to launch this initiative. And I want to challenge women to do their self-breast exams, because if I would have known what to look for, I would have known earlier than that that what I was dealing with. I would have known earlier before they even did the mammogram, because I was already having symptoms. I was now looking back at it. And so I said, every month on the 7th of the month, we're not going to wait till October. We want to do this every month. And so that is my initiative. It's a social media initiative. And also before COVID, we did this huge kickoff where we had women as well as men who had gone through breast cancer, who have had the diagnosis of breast cancer, and we also had those caregivers there. So it is definitely something that I'm very, very passionate about. Girl Check 7. Check your girls every 7th of the month. So.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great one. And you know, well, I don't have to check that anymore, but
right.
but I love to share that story. That, hey, get them checked. Get your girls checked. Hello, Pastor Carlos.
Hey, good evening. Good evening.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having us.
Hey, sir. How are you?
How you doing there, Dr. Arnett?
So
good.
So, Pastor Carlos, I know you had a role in all of this. And I know that you're one who supports your wife a lot, just like my husband supports me. So tell me a little bit about how you help to push her.
Well, again, thank you guys so much for having us on here. I really appreciate it a great deal. You know, I guess for us, we kind of go back 30 years plus. You know, back in 1990 when I first met you guys. So it's an honor that we're at this stage of our life, we're able to be here. I think when Nikki told me about the diagnosis, to be absolutely honest, I was kind of numb. I just got quiet because for me, first of all, me and God had to have a conversation. We had to have a conversation. We needed to talk, buddy. I need you to give me some answers here, you know. And then he just began to remind me to be there, to be supportive, and just kind of walk alongside my wife, and just every step of the way. But and I got to say this, I think I was prepared to be here to help her, through the whole process. You got me? From the initial diagnosis all the way to, after every surgery, everything that had to take place and all of the care that you had to give. And you couldn't be selfish, right. So as a caregiver, you can't be selfish. You can't be self-centered. But it's not for the faint at heart.
And the extra financial support.
Yes.
At that time,
right.
Word.
Right. That was something, but God always provided. He always provided. But I think for me, just one of the things that encouraged me was seeing Nikki's strength. I couldn't let her see. Sometimes I wanted to just like, how you, girl, you just got, the doctor just gave you this here, and today, and the next day you going to preach. I'd have to tell him, listen, but she said, I'm still going. And I'm like, okay, she gonna still go. I'm gonna be her chauffeur. I'm gonna take her. I'm gonna be right there, along with her. So I think as a caregiver, when you get that type of report, you have to, it really, for me, what it shifted me to another mindset of, now this not gonna happen here, but we wanted to listen. And, I think if Nikki could testify, some people may have felt like, the decision that she made went to, was a little bit more extreme based on what somebody else would have done. But like Minister Pam, like Pam said, everybody's, decision is different.
That's right.
And one thing I didn't want to happen with Nikki, I didn't want to see her, because I've seen people go through things like this, and there was like a reoccurring, back in, and so when the decision was made, and we prayed about it and talked about it, and sat down and asked the doctors a litany of questions on, well, if we do this, what's the results? If we do this, what's the result? If we do this. And so just asking those questions brought us to a point,
options.
When options brought Nikki to a point, because at the end of the day, it was really her ultimately her decision. But I appreciate her allowing me to be a voice in the whole thing. So it was challenging, but again, just seeing her faith, and when she made this one statement, and this thing right here, I'll hold on to it to the day I die. She said, "You may be there. You may be there. The doctor may have found you, spotted you, but I command you not to move. Don't you spread to nowhere. Don't you go nowhere until we get you." And that thing right there really inspired me. And I really, saw her take that command of her body. And I often say this, and I'm gonna get out of the way. I often say this: there's 3 Greek words in the Bible for power. One is exousia, one is exousia, one is exousia, one is dunamis, and another one is exousio. I like exousio because it means to take control of the body. And so once she said that, that's what came to my mind. Exousio. A husband has not the power of his body, but the wife, and likewise, wife does not have the power of her body, but the husband. And so when she said that, I commanded not to move. I set myself in agreement with that from my position as her husband, and say, you know what? I am in agreement with her that you better not move. You can't go any place else. You can't spread to any other organs. You can't do anything. We confine you to this spot until the doctors and God do what He did. And so that for these last 5 years, I'm really proud of her, the things that she's accomplished, and the thing and how she keep going, through that whole journey. So it was amazing to be a part of it, and I'm glad God graced me to be here, to be a caregiver and to support her in this right here. And I don't know how many people listening, but as a caregiver, you have to get your mind right. Can't let your mind slip.
Right. And I am so blessed to have met her, and she was an inspiration to me when I was going through my journey. And I called her sometimes late at night. Well, what about this? What about that? And what about that? And she was always willing to just share her experience and be inspirational to me. So you never know why somebody is coming into your life at the time they come. And so thank you. Thank you for inspiring.
Question. Okay, so I've heard a lot of great things from the two of you all. My question would be one question, but it's going to come from both perspectives. What, Pastor Nikki, would you say to the woman who may have just gotten a diagnosis? What can you say to her that's going to help her to be inspired to move forward and to move through? And then Pastor Carlos, as the person who gave your wife the kind of support that she needed, what are you going to say to the person that's going to support that person that's getting ready to go through it? What motivational things can you say to help us, on the other side of the camera that are at the beginning of this journey, so to say?
For me, I would say to that person who have just received the diagnosis from the doctor of breast cancer, to just take a moment and breathe. Take a moment and breathe. Do not, and I say this from a place of purity, because this is exactly what I did. I took a moment, and I didn't want to overreact. I didn't want to allow my feelings to just take over, because I've always been a believer, but my faith wasn't as strong always as it was in that place. So I would say to that woman or that man, that person, to take a moment and breathe. Also, be your own advocate. Listen to your body, listen to God, pray, and then listen to your doctors. Listen to those that God has placed in your life. Be very open and honest about what it is that you want, what it is that you desire out of this situation, because the one thing we want is healing. But there are also other things that, my husband said earlier. He said, some people would have said, well, you could have just chose this, the radiation, the lumpectomy, and this and that. You didn't have to do the, the skin sparing mastectomy. But I listened to my body. I listened to the Holy Spirit, and we made the decision to do what it is that I did. And then 5 years later, my mom, we had no history of breast cancer in my family. I went through the genetic test. Nothing, no genes, no anything. My mom, 5 years later, this year, was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she had no other choice. She had no other choice but to have a mastectomy because of the stage that it was in. And so there are decisions now that you will have to make. You don't have to be in a rush to make them, but you will have, they tell you, you're going to have to make the decisions. Make your decisions according to you, according to your family, your situation, what the Lord is speaking to you. Be your advocate. Absolutely. Go beyond, if you feel that if you're not completely okay with what you're hearing, it's okay to get a second opinion. Great. I would tell anybody that it's okay to get a second opinion.
Great.
Good. Well, I kind of have to piggyback what Nikki is saying, because for me, what I had to do what she said. As a caregiver, it's a shift in your mind, because when we live in the world of technology now, so all you have to do is Google something so you can start getting information. But you really have to stop and think. And especially as but so if I had to give a word of encouragement to a caregiver, a spouse, if I had to give I would say most definitely you have to pray, but more so than anything, you have to listen to the person. You have to really hear. It's almost like I said this way. what I became was like a blank sheet of paper when it came to Nikki. I didn't have a whole lot to say. I didn't have a whole lot of, you know, I needed to hear what it was she felt. I needed to hear how she was feeling, what she was thinking. I needed her to vent. So I didn't want to do a whole lot of talking. I didn't want to try to give a whole lot of advice. So in those moments, because I think Pam said, you know, she was a little, you know, she didn't want no, listen, if you told her story, it aggravated her. You got me? So I needed to allow God, more so than anything, this was my prayer. Lord, I need you to speak to my wife.
Yeah.
I need you to speak to her. I need you to give her the comfort that she needs. God, she's at a crossroad of decision now, and this is a major decision. And that was just my, you know, my little whisper to the Lord, you know, Lord, and help, give me the wisdom. Give me the wisdom on how to be there and to be supportive in this whole process unselfishly. You got me?
Yeah.
Unselfishly. However long it took for us to get to where we are today.
Right.
So there is some sacrifice. There's some I often say this right here, Ecclesiastes 3, being able to make the necessary adjustments as a season of life change, and to be there as she going through just different emotions because of the decision that we made, you know, to be there to support her when, as her husband, listen, you're still loved, you're still beautiful, I'm still here. All of those things become very important when someone is confronted with a situation like this right here, especially when you go to the measure that Nikki and I went to go through the different surgeries.
A lot of other women,
you know,
chose that. So it
right.
You're so right.
And so those things are really serious because, you know, as a caregiver, you know, I would say do your research, because I did mine. You know, I did my research. I listened to her. I listened to God. You know, and from there, we was able to make an informed decision because my primary focus for Nikki was, as you move forward, I don't want to see you going through this whole, you know, you do one and then you do, you know, just kind of going back and forth, which I had just on YouTube. I saw people, you know, that is going through, you know, just 3 years later, this returned. You know what? Hey, Doc, let me ask you a question. And that's one of the things I appreciate about Nikki. She allowed me to ask the doctor questions.
Absolutely.
And so I was able to ask the doctor some pointed questions, and I needed him to give me some pointed answers so that when we made this decision, we made this decision together, and both of us understood that when this decision is made, it was made together. And you have to, as a caregiver, you have to be sensitive to the different emotions that your wife or your husband is going to go through when they're going through a situation like this. So be encouraged. Know that, you know, that God is on your side. Know that people are praying for you. But more so than anything, I love what Pam said. There was time when she kind of came to some crossroad and she had some questions. You had somebody to call.
Yes.
So that's what I would say as a caregiver. If you get stuck in a spot, you have people like yourself, Arnett, and me, who have been caregivers, and you know, and we Arnett, you know, we've had a great model in Pastor Kenneth and what it means to be a caregiver to you.
Absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate the model that he modeled for us. It helped me to support my wife in this situation.
Absolutely.
He is a jewel.
Absolutely.
He's a jewel when it comes to how a husband should support his wife in situations like this.
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. You touched on a couple of things that I'm glad you mentioned it, because, and Nikki, you said this early on. I think it is important that we do recognize the emotions that this can impact. And certainly I think you used the word sensitivity, which is a very important aspect of being the one assisting through the journey. I know for me and for us, it was really important for me to kind of put some things on the back burner, put my own feelings aside. You know, Pastor Carlos, you mentioned, it ain't about you.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the things that you have to come to grips with. I wanted us to be able to say some things tonight that would be encouraging to those whoever's out there, whoever's listening right now, knowing that there are those different perspectives. Pastor Carlos, you're bringing the caretaker's perspective. Pastor Nikki, you and my wife being the ones having to actually walk through it. I'd like to think that we've said some things this evening that can really be encouraging and be motivational to anybody who's listening right now. And if you are listening, I just want you to understand you're looking at two vessels in the women that you're seeing on the screen right now who have proven themselves to be mighty warriors. And I think if there's anything that I can say to kind of put a cap on what we're doing and what we're saying, there is a warrior that's on the inside of you. And I think, Pam, you can talk to that because I know that that's something that came up in you. There is a warrior that's inside of you that these kinds of situations and circumstances will cause to come to the surface. So with that being said, Pam, can you kind of put a cap on this with talking about the warrior that's there?
Well, the thing that, and I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is when I did my live, when I was celebrating my 3rd year anniversary earlier today, I said there were some things that I learned through this cancer journey that I may not have learned otherwise. And one of those things would be the fact that I had strength that I didn't know I had.
Absolutely.
When I crossed the 1st year anniversary, I said, I want to do a big celebration. It was the day of my diagnosis, March 16th. I wanted to do a big celebration. And my daughters were like, Mom, why would you want to celebrate getting a diagnosis of cancer? That makes no sense. And I said, I am celebrating the fact that the moment that doctor spoke to me and said that I had cancer, a warrior rose up in me.
Yes.
And I am celebrating her. I'm celebrating the warrior that rose up in me that I did not know existed.
Right.
And so I did not operate in this cancer journey from a place of fear. There was never fear.
That's good.
And I know that was God, because that's not normal for Pam. But because I can go there in a minute. But fear never entered. And my only response to my doctor that day was, all right, so what are we going to do about it?
Right.
Let's go. Let's get it started. Let's go. And so you find out, I learned so much about myself. I learned about my expectations of others. I learned so much about, my own emotions, why I think the way I think. You have a lot of time to think when you're laying home recovering from a surgery. Right. And you can only watch so much TV, And so it just really taught me a lot about myself, and it gave me focus. It gave me a passion. This has become a passion for me.
Right.
And that's why, Fashion Inspirations was started. It actually started years ago when I started under the name of Fashion for His Presence. But once this came about, Fashion Inspirations became the theme, and I couldn't get away from it. And I believe that was something that God birthed through this process. Mm-hmm. And so good things can come out of difficult situations.
Absolutely.
And so when that warrior rises up in you, you can fight and you can fight and you can fight. Because your attitude will be, oh, you had the audacity to roll up on me with cancer? Oh, we about to go for it. And that was the attitude I had. Yeah. And so that can happen for anybody. You just have to make a choice.
Absolutely.
It's a choice.
It's good stuff. That's good stuff, guys. I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't want to hold us very long. We were supposed to be 15 minutes, but I knew it was going to be longer when you got two pastors and my husband on. So, but it was good. It was worth it. It was so worth it. Thank you so much, Pastors Carlos and Nikki. I appreciate you guys so very much. And we love you. And I just want to just end by saying to whoever's listening, we hope you've been inspired. We hope you've been motivated. And we hope you will join us again next week for Monday Motivational Moments. We'll be doing this just for the month of October, focusing on breast cancer, but we will move on with other topics because there are other topics that people are fashioned to inspire for. So as the months come on, we may not come on once a week, but maybe once a month to just inspire and motivate for the various situations that life can bring, the issues of life. All right. So thank you so much, and we'll see you later.
All right. Thank you all so much.
We love y'all.
Love y'all.
I love you guys.